and welcome to an Everyday Canines video. In this episode on Running Contacts, we're doing our last little look at seesaw games to play in tandem with doing our running dog walks, and we're looking at the impact because that's the next part of the puzzle for the seesaw, and it's where things can go wrong. We need our dog to understand and appreciate that the seesaw moves and they've got to hold position until it hits the ground, whereas on the dog walk they keep moving. So first off, I want to talk to you about words. I find, and I've changed with Swift, and what was the key to changing with Swift, and this was a Susan Garrett thing, but I've seen other pandas do it as well, is that adding a word that cued the fact the seesaw was going down and that she needed to do a certain behaviour. Now, with Sparrow, I never had to worry about this. Sparrow was just naturally got on with the seesaw and just did her own thing. She never was an issue. So with Swift, it was a bit of like, oh, she doesn't just do the same. Because Sparrow, I just tell her to do the seesaw, she'd go up, she'd find the position where it was going to tip, she'd pause for a second, then carry on. We never had an issue. With Swift, it was like, oh, I don't know where the tip is, I don't know this, I don't like this. And she would stand on the seesaw straight-legged. Now, when you go down and something's going to hit the ground and you're straight-legged, the impact is going to shoot up through your wrist, elbow, shoulders, and it's going to jar you like this and jar your neck and your spine. It's not going to be pleasant. Equally, when you're straight-legged like this, you can't take an impact so well. So what was happening was Swift was going on the end of the seesaw, standing, and she was there, but the seesaw would go down, it would bang, it would throw her off. I've got a since bit of photographs that someone took, and I thought she jumped off the side of the seesaw. In actual fact, I could see she was trying, but because of the position she was in, it threw her off with the impact because she's a small, light dog. So the first thing I needed to do, and I highly recommend this, is I taught her to lay down and ride the seesaw tip out. And I don't see this enough with people doing it, and this is one of my big things. All my dogs now will go up and they are taught to lie down and ride the tip out. Now, what tends to happen and transfer as they're going along, and I don't mind this, is that they tend to, as they get more experience, they don't necessarily do a complete down, but they do a bow. So their legs and front legs are down, so they're still bracing for impact, and it's still okay position, but they're not going the full down. I don't mind that when they get to a certain stage, but when I'm initially training it, I am training them to run up, lie down, and then it goes down. Initially, when I'm training the position, what I want them to do seesaw, is I want them to go up and lay down. So of course, first of all, I need to teach them to understand a down cue, and then as we're doing this, I teach them to do it on the seesaw as she's doing it, and ultimately I change that to a different word, and that's a bang grid. But let me show you what I want initially. So I would actually do this with my strut back under it. I've taken it out to be prepared, but I would do it with the strut, which would save an awful lot of weight on my shoulders. But I'll show you what I mean to do. Can you come off, please? I would ask her to come up, sweet, see, and lay down like this. So I'm going to show you a little invention I had to mishmash, which can help this, because obviously when you're here, you act as alert, and that gets them to come up. But as you move away, you can find that they sometimes don't want to go straight up. So anyway, initially I'm teaching them to run up and lay down. That's the position I want them to do the seesaw in. Down, and here. That's all I'm doing. So this is stage 2. After they're doing that confidently run up, stage 2 is I'm going to allow there to be a little bit of a drop before they run to the end. Can you sit? Wait. There's going to be a little bit of a tip this time. See. Good girl. See, she went over the tip point, ran up and lay down. Okay, so that's stage 2. Teeny bit of tip. Now, stage 3 is once they've tipped, I'm going to be holding this and I'm going to lower it. Now you've got to be down. And just before I drop it to make it hit the floor, this is the impact, I'm going to say bang. And bang indicates there's going to be an impact. Bang! Yay! So she's held the position in the bang position. She's not been worried about that. That was actually quite high. I'd start it really low to begin with because she's experienced. I can actually do it from quite high. Good girl. And then of course, we don't want her releasing until I ask her to. Break. Now as she gets more experienced, you can ask her to release early or you can ask her to self-release. But at this stage, because we are building up safety and getting that really strong end behaviour, I want her to appreciate that she needs to be in a down. And now, one of the things I've noticed that as we're getting a bit into competition, I did notice that she started to stand up again and she wasn't holding the position so well, because of course they get a bit keen in competition. So it's something I have to constantly keep reinforcing. Bang! Hey, good girl! See, no worries. Now I couldn't have done that a year ago. Well, more than a year ago. But you know, impressive. Okay, go get it. Okay, so that is what we're doing with these impact and how we're going to teach them to the impact's fine, it's not a bother, and here we go again. We could be at this all day, honestly. Now she's keen on it. Now you notice when she just did that and she got up there, what the thing she did was she laid down on the tip point, which is, you know, she's riding out the tip point, that's fine. I would rather she was right at the top. So what happens is when I'm not with her, that tends to be what happens. She goes lower. So see if I got my device in here. So what I do is I find something that I can put on the end of the seesaw. Oh, I can't find it. But I would have something like a treat toy, like a clam. And I put it here at the end of the seesaw and I put it over with a bungee so that it holds in place. So the clam works quite well because you can put the bungee through the middle of it and hook it and tie it in. And I have it there so she's got something to run up to. It's one of those things that I think you've got to keep proofing. It's one of the things that I'm going to be doing with Swift all her life, because as soon as we start getting into competition and we're doing things a bit faster, she tends to start finding the tip point again and laying down at the tip point. It's just something we're always going to be working on, and yeah, it's just what it is. But as you can see, we're playing with that impact. It's not a big bother. Now, I just want to talk to you about words. So I use the phrase CC, which means seesaw. It only ever means seesaw. It's a tipping device. Now, you'd think that because CC is so different from run, which is the dog walk, you would think that'd be enough of a difference, but it's not. So I still had issues where Swift was confusing the seesaw for the dog walk, even though those words are so different. So that is why I now have also the bang cue. And why I'm saying bang as I go down, and again, this was based on a Susan Garrett thing, but I also see a lot of handlers using it, is that I'm telling her this is going to tip. If you didn't work it out when I said CC, now you know. I use bang because bang is actually quite a hard word, and you shout out bang, and the dog goes, oh, and I've seen it sometimes. I can see her going too fast, and I shout bang, and she goes, oh, hang on, it's a seesaw, drop. It's bringing another element of trust between handler and dog. You're helping them to understand and be safe, and it's another way of trusting you. If she said CC to me, she's, you know, and then she tells me to bang, I know what this is. She isn't tricking me. She isn't telling me CC when I was actually running up the dog walk. It's just clarifying what this thing is compared to the dog walk. And of course then I have run for my dog walk and go, which means put the power on. So we have different words and different things, and I think that is highly important. I would say that the double wording for cueing the seesaw was probably one of the keys that fixed her fear. It was such a little thing, but it was such a key. And you could use anything. You could use stop, feet. It doesn't matter. Now, obviously, I do her, she runs up the seesaw, bows all down to feel the tilt, and then she lays down. That's how I want. When she gets to self-release, she obviously keeps going on. If you want a 2 off, 2 on, it's the same thing, except when your dog's done, they're still going to do a down at that position, because that's still the good thing to do to protect the shoulders for the impact. And then what they're going to do is then once they've gone down, they'll move into the 2 off, 2 on. Though to be fair, if they're already doing the down like that, you might as well go from there. So that's your 3 fundamentals of your seesaw that you're going to be working on in tandem with your dog walk. There's obviously going to be a lot more proofing to be done with seesaws, but this is one way you're going to help your dog to understand the difference between the 2 obstacles and hopefully overcome any issue where at a later stage when you are doing full seesaws, your dog suddenly decides, I can't do dog walks. It's just trying to make sure that there's that element of transference and understanding. You know, we can still end up with problems because things happen, but hopefully this is going to, certainly with Magpie, this has made an enormous difference. Getting her to do this first before, and then training the running dog walk. She's really moving on nicely with the two now. She's understanding that this is the thing that moves and that's the thing that doesn't move. So it's working, so hopefully that'll work. Now obviously you may have a dog that's already experienced your retraining on your running dog walks. Do you need to do this? Potentially not. However, I would say that if you are starting to teach the two different cues might not be a bad idea, because once your dog starts doing a running dog walk, it's a different behaviour to doing stopped. Now if you're doing a stopped on a dog walk and you're doing a stopped on a seesaw, that's the same behaviour at the end, isn't it? Theoretically. If you start doing running, there's a potential that your dog might think, well, actually I do running on the seesaw. So there's still this element, you want to make sure your dog understands that the seesaw is a very different behaviour to a dog walk. So I hope that's all made sense. If you enjoyed watching this video, and if you have, you might want to subscribe to the YouTube channel, and if you click the bell icon, you'll get notifications of when new videos are coming out. And you can also find us on Facebook and Instagram. I hope to see you all again very, very soon.